Welcome to our podcast, and I sincerely appreciate you for taking your time out of your insane schedule. I wanted to, start with the main question. Who is Scott, and what does Scott do?
Scott is a entrepreneur at heart. I grew up in a household where a single mom, and I've always wanted to be my own boss. And when I was a kid, I had paper routes, and I worked my uncle's business with him, which he had a pastry route business. I've been around entrepreneurialism my entire life. I worked at a franchise when I was 15 years old at Wendy's. But truly today, I would say my career has come full circle. I'm the CEO of Your Future Franchise, which is a consulting company that works with aspiring entrepreneurs that are curious about franchising, but really want to get into confident ownership. So I support them through figuring out who they are, which is a big part of it, understanding your transferable skills, your working genius, and aligning those skills, values, and experiences to the proper business model that can achieve the results they're looking for. I have over 200 brands in my inventory that I work with. But prior to becoming my own entrepreneur, I was actually a C-level executive at Radiance Holdings, which is Solis Salons. They have about 750 locations, as well as Woodhouse Spa, where we had about, at the time, 95 locations, but I think there are over 100 now. And then before that, I was with Level 5 Capital. We owned a bunch of brands. We owned Big Blue Swim School, Heyday Skincare, Store Hyper Wellness, Go Dog, Kid Strong, and Laundry Lab. And then prior to that, I was with Tutor Doctor as a senior VP of Global. And then before that, I was with JamPro and Made Right at Premium Franchise Brands, which we had over 10,000 franchisees. So I bought my I bought my first franchise when I was 22 years old, and it's been a wonderful journey. My wife and I and sister-in-law own 3 locations for Solis Salons. Today, I teach principles of franchising at the University of Georgia with my fellow colleague Craig Carter from Chick-fil-A, and I enjoy it very much. I think it's a practical course where people who are looking at potentially becoming a franchisee or are curious about what it means to be a franchisee or what it takes to achieve that.
Love speaking with individuals that all about helping future entrepreneurs to become better entrepreneurs, right? And you've seen entrepreneurship from corporate, franchisee, and advisor perspective. What is the biggest misconception people have about owning a business before they start?
The biggest misconception?
Yeah.
That it's hard, which it is hard. There is many businesses, franchising, for instance, provides you a playbook in a box, if you will. And so it becomes easier when you're with a franchise system than trying to do it on your own. But when you start on your own, I don't think people realize consistency and customer acquisition, just being able to build the business properly so that it's repeat. It's not starting over every month, hiring, getting consistency from team members. So I believe consistency is key. And when you look at what a franchise does, a lot of the type of role that you're hiring for, the technology they use, the marketing programs they have, there's a lot of consistency there so that your metrics, the benchmarks, what you have to achieve to have success. When you start as a true entrepreneur, you don't have that. You don't have a benchmark. You don't have fellow franchisees to talk to. You don't have a franchisor that's built the business model. It's you. You have to build the guidebook. You have to have the logos and select the technology and whatever it is you're doing to maintain the operations of that business. And it always comes back to consistency. The biggest misconception is entrepreneurs think that they have to innovate all the time. And if you're constantly innovating, you're never getting to a place of where you're building that consistency to get results. You're always playing skunk works, if you will. And that's why a lot of true visionary entrepreneurs need an integrator as a key number 2 to help them.
So what's the hardest mental transition new franchise owners, since you work with a lot of franchise owners, right, that new franchise owners struggle in their first year if they're sitting like, all right, Scott, I'm ready to start a franchise. I'm interested in the business, but they don't have a business experience.
So the biggest thing that I find that folks fall into traps they fall into is in corporate America, or when you're working for somebody else, you have a job function. Your job is to do X, Y, or Z. And maybe it's doing spreadsheets or closing the books out or getting a marketing strategy out the door or whatever it is, you have a job function, but sometimes strategic, sometimes tactical. But when you're a small business owner and when you're the sole person driving that bus, there's certain times of the day that you need to focus on certain activities to drive that bus, to drive growth, whether it's going to networking and meetings, whether it's to meeting other business professionals in the community, whether it's to get back to leads, do tours, do consults, whatever the key drivers are of that business to drive sales or drive growth in that business. You as the business owner should be focused on them. What I've seen a lot with people is they get into the business and they want to analyze everything because they love analyzing things and that's their natural working genius. Well, that's not going to get you new customers or that's not going to grow your day to day. So people get caught up in what they're comfortable with versus doing the tough stuff, also hiring team members, like hiring the right people. People tend to hire people like them. So and if you're trying to create a diverse culture where you're trying to, you need different skill sets, right? You want to hire that's going to be best suited for that job, who's going to have the best skills for that job. And that may not be something that you're comfortable with. Maybe you're not a marketer by nature, or you're not a bookkeeper or finance person by nature, but you just need to hire those people. So I truly believe that's where most people struggle is they hang on to people too long that aren't good quality enough for the roles that they need success with. And B, they focus on what they're comfortable focusing on versus saying, no, I need to be working on the business strategically and growing it, not doing things I shouldn't be doing. Myself included. When I was a 22-year-old kid, I was a great personal trainer. I was very personable and I had a personal training studio called Fitness Together. And I loved working with clients. So had to have myself in the schedule. I would work with clients. But the challenge there is I couldn't my schedule was always booked. Didn't have room for consults. I was working 40, 60 hours a week and I wasn't really working on the business. I wasn't focusing on the KPIs. I wasn't focusing on the marketing. I wasn't focused on getting out in the community. I wasn't focused on developing my team as a leader. So I had the first year was a challenge
Yeah.
versus if you follow the playbook, hire the right people, be a leader, do what the franchisor asks you to do by being a leader or being an executive in the business and not being a doer in the business, you'll have better success.
Yeah, even in a proven system, some franchises succeed while the other fail, right? Ultimately, it's on the person and how you prioritize your time in the beginning, especially, right? Because you made a comment about doing something that you're comfortable doing in the beginning versus doing something that is necessary for your business to grow.
Correct. Yeah.
And that could be very, very dangerous if especially somebody's entrepreneur is extremely stubborn.
Some people like being in numbers and want to do spreadsheets and want
100%.
to analyze, what their next month's going to look like versus like, wait, did I follow up with those 5 leads that came in that need to do a consultation to get them as clients? Like that's going to drive new customer growth. It's going to drive revenue. I mean, and that honestly, as a franchisee, unless you have someone focused on that, that's you, the franchisee, to do that. You need to go be the developer of the business
So
development.
ultimately, what I'm hearing is you need to let's focus on getting the business income, the revenue coming in first before you start systemizing other things. Let's just get the people. Let's simple, simple concept, right?
Get the team members hired, so it's a supply and demand, right? If you don't have the supply there to service the customers or for the growth, then you can't take on the demand, and vice versa. But you have all the demand, but you don't have anyone to serve. Like it's just you have to have it there to set up. And so a lot of great brands will have as you're scaling, as you're going through post signing your franchise agreements, they'll have a launch call, they'll have a business launch checklist, they'll have community readiness, service readiness, store readiness. They'll have these things organized in a way that they can be different tracks, but there's certain go no go periods in the process. So like, hey, if you don't have your lease signed, we probably shouldn't kick off local store marketing. Or if you don't have your insurance in place, we can't hire these staff members. Like so there's certain things that have to happen before the other domino has to fall. And it's a great brand will have those things in place for you. So your business launches a success. It's literally like Elon Musk launching a rocket into space. Like there's go no go area readiness categories that if this is not a go, we don't launch the rocket.
Yeah, I see. Makes sense. Well, let's talk about that actually, the systems and everything that you just mentioned, right? How there's a lunch meeting and systemize setting up the systems in place with a lot of franchise systems. People could assume naturally that franchising means everything is done for you. That's the natural assumption by a lot of entrepreneurs, especially the ones that had no experience of owning a business. Where does that belief breaks down in reality?
So there's certain phases of brand development, right? So on the franchisor side, which is the franchisor is the one providing you the business format franchising. There are distribution franchisors that do like sell your product or service, like PepsiCo, Coca-Cola, or QT Gas or Shell Gas. Like they're distribute like so you're they're not necessarily putting a business in a box for you. They're just saying, hey, you need to buy this much product or product from us, right? So business format franchising is what most franchisors have, but there's different phases of development of those brands. You have these startup brands that are brand new. They're a founder. They might have one or two locations, and they're like, man, this business is great. I'm going to go franchise it. And then they start franchising. Then you have these emerging brands they've been franchising for a little bit. They've got some successful corporate stores. They've got a couple successful franchisees, and now they're emerging, right? They're growing a little bit. People are be curious about. And then you have high growth brands. I work with a lot of high growth brands, right? They're 100, 200 units and they're growing rapidly year over year. They've got a good executive team. They've got the unit models figured out at that point. They know how to stamp it out. They've got franchisor level support and process in place. So backing up, the founder led one, those ones aren't going to have as much. The franchisee is going to have to bring their special sauce. They're going to have to do what they're good at to grow that business. So those people tend to be more entrepreneurial, right? That get into that franchise. Then emerging, still entrepreneurial, still have like there's systems in place, but maybe they're breaking. Maybe they need to be changed. Maybe there's some adaptation or growth that has to happen with the brand. High growth, same thing. Then you have your professionally managed when private equity comes in, and then you have your legacy brands. Not all brands have private equity. Like Chick-fil-A doesn't have private equity, family run, but they're legacy run. I mean, the brand does everything for you. You do not have to be an entrepreneur. Everything is marketing's thought out. They don't want you to come with your ideas, actually. They want you to just,
Uh-huh.
you know what I mean?
Is that pretty standard across a lot of franchises? Which makes sense. You want to teach them your way, your culture, your systems.
The bigger brands are less likely to have you come in and make changes or adaptations. They don't want that. They're focused on compliance. They're focused on executing the brand the way the brand's supposed to be executed.
Why is learning to fail fast such a critical skill for the entrepreneur, especially for somebody who's new, who's starting an entrepreneurship journey early?
Because everyone comes with a plan when they get in a business, right? Everyone has a plan. They have a pro forma. They have an idea of how it's going to go. But it's like once the first bullet's shot, it's not, you have to be able to adapt. You have to be able to observe and learn and grow. And, you think you've got this team figured out. You got everyone hired, ready to go, and someone quits on you overnight. Like, or, you're executing the playbook, but you're not converting the customers, or customers don't like certain aspects of whatever it is you're providing, and you get negative feedback there. So I think as a entrepreneur, as a franchisee, you have to be comfortable. You have to have thick skin. You have to be able to adapt. You have to learn from your failures. Like you talk to any MLB player, and they'll say the player that doesn't cry if they strike out or cry if they lose or, when they're younger, and they're okay with moving on and learning and tweaking their skills and working on their boring stuff, those are the ones that make it to the MLB. It's not the
Interesting.
gifted, talented guy. It's the person who's willing to follow the process, willing to fail, is okay learning, and works his butt off, his or her
Interesting.
butt. Yeah.
I love that mindset. Yeah, it just has a grit, basically. Just keep going.
Well, Angela Duckworth, right? I mean, she wrote the book Grit. That is, she did a ton of research on what makes someone successful. Is it their upbringing? Is their education? Is it maybe their skill set? It's grit. It's willing to know that on the other side of the rainbow, there's something there. Or other side of the storm, there's something there. There's a rainbow, right? And willing to put that extra work in to get there. But you could be going this way for many, many years in this direction and realize, wait a second, I keep hitting this wall here. Let me go this way. And that little 1 degree, 2 degree this way makes all the difference to the world. But it's having the passion and the drive and the vision to get there. And that, again, that's the beauty of a franchise. They have a vision, they have values, they have mission statement, they have best
They can
practices.
align. they kind of can
Yeah.
align where you at in life.
And most people that I work with have fear, right? Like there comes a point in their journey of becoming a business owner where fear sets in, right? We all have fear. And your experience in life tends to determine how you react to fear, right? The way our brains are wired, they're wired from 2000 years ago. You know, you heard some in the, something rustling in the brush there. You think it's some animal is going to come out and you're going to get killed. You're going to get eaten. You know what I mean? And that's how our brains are
It's true.
wired. And so what happens is people feel like failure is finite and it's they're gonna be kicked out of the tribe and no one's gonna like them anymore and they're gonna be all alone in the wilderness and they're gonna be out there like, how am I gonna survive and feed myself and my family? And the reality is that's totally false. It's false evidence appearing real in your head,
Right.
which
Right.
is fear. And it again goes back to the mindset of self-limiting beliefs and the fear of the unknown. And some people I work with have the fear of success. What if you start making $200,000 a month in profit when you're used to making 80 grand a year or 90 grand a year?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
How
a
do you
lot.
handle?
How do
Yeah.
you handle that?
Yeah. Yeah. Next question is about AI, right? Many franchises are operationally strong but weak in technology and AI.
Mhm.
It's because it's new. I get it, right? Where do you see the biggest missed opportunities today?
I think people have preconceived notions on what AI is even, and they assume that, oh, a bot that I used, years ago didn't work and it won't work again today. What I mean by that, maybe it's someone you're talking to on a phone, it's a bot and it frustrates you oh, we can't do that because we want to have the personal touch with the client or the franchisee or whatever it is. And I also think people don't understand what AI really is
Yeah. Yeah.
and how to
Absolutely.
use it. Like there's generative AI, there's agentic AI, there's analytical AI, and it's how do I best utilize what I need to get? A guy from Copilot told me, he's an engineer at Copilot. He said, I should be your assistant. The way you prompt it, the way you teach it, the way it learns, like it's a young, super smart intern or, or administrative assistant person that you have to tell it what you want. And the better you tell it what you want, the better outcomes you're going to get. The other piece, the agentic stuff, to me is the most interesting because you have these solopreneurs or these, people with maybe a low budget that can't have a lot of headcount. Now they can do so much more with agent. They have these digital employees that can go do all their emails, send follow up phone calls, send text messages, and then once the inbound stuff, get the call scheduled. Like never having to talk to you as a person. Like it's all done through the system that you have that you set up and the process you set up, and it's very passive. Same thing with accounting. I mean, and if you're a specialist, if you're doing accounting or you're a lawyer or paralegal,
Every
you
industry.
need those jobs are gonna eventually they're gonna the dollar amount that you can charge per hour is gonna go down because the system is gonna be the acceleration of AI can do those tasks at a much faster, accurate rate than a human being can.
My last question is one advice, somebody who's brand new entrepreneur, wants to be an entrepreneur, who's looking into franchising, one advice that you would give them in 2026.
Two things. One, first things first, make sure you know yourself. Make sure you understand. And I don't know, you can go take a disc profile and Enneagram, but work with somebody who's done it before and that can help you know that knows yourself. A mentor. Find a mentor, right? Somebody who can help you know yourself and then know what you're working on. And then finally, the last thing would be make sure you have enough capital. Don't go into a business capital constraint. When I was 22, I was totally capital constraint and I don't recommend it. It's stressful.
But you made it. You had the grit
I did. Yeah. That's the grit piece
that shaped up probably your entrepreneurship future.
for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. And, you said mentor for somebody who's listening, and because I see that word being thrown left and right so easily, or just because that guy is at the high echelon at the job, he considers him a mentor. What does getting a mentor means? What is a mentor?
To me, I know plenty of corporate people that don't have a pot to piss in, right? They may have great titles, great salaries. They spend like they don't invest properly. They might have a decent 401k, but they're not like building real wealth. A great mentor is somebody who's done it. They've actually built a lot of wealth. They know how to, take calculated risks. If you run into a scenario and it's challenging in business, you can go to them and they've seen it before and they can give you solid advice and what you need to do. But remember, any advice you do get, that's probably going to be uncomfortable. And a lot of times you're going to be looking in the mirror at yourself like, "Hey, I didn't do that well. I need to do that different next time." Huh? But, being a leader is hard, especially when you're leading teams of people.
It's lonely.
It is lonely at the top, for sure.
That's why you get rewarded a lot more. Yeah, exactly. So, well, I appreciate you, Scott. If viewers would like to get in touch with you, how can I get in touch with you? Where do they go?
So my email address is Scott, SCOTT, at yourfuturefranchise.com. You can send me an email. You can go to my website at www.yourfuturefranchise.com. And on there is book a strategy call with me. If you're just curious, I'll talk to anyone. If you only have $10,000, need to know how to save up enough or get funding to start your business, I can help you. But if you are curious about franchising or owning a business, I'm always open to talk.
Yeah, I'm glad that you highlighted that because I know majority of viewers probably will not have that capital to start the franchise. But from your perspective, when somebody reaches out to you, do you have a data on how long it takes for somebody to actually pull the trigger? Is that call
Yeah.
Scott and ready to go, or it usually takes a year or two?
From curiosity to actual confident ownership, I would say it takes 6 to 12 months,
There we
right?
go.
I would also but if you're coming with going like, "Hey, I know I wanna be a franchisee, I know I wanna be my own boss," it's usually 3 months, 3 to 4 months.
So it's not necessarily the capital issue. It's the no, because there are ways of finding the funds,
Yeah,
but
we have great funding sources. You
ah,
need a minimum of $50,000, I'm not gonna lie. You need to really get into a good brand, you need about 50K, and then you
yep.
can finance the rest.
Yeah, it's just believe and believe that you can do it and ready to start and yep and commit and
But
grind.
that process of going from, "Hey, I hate my job," or "I wanna make a change," or "Not satisfied with what I'm doing," that process of getting to a place of like, "No, no, I'm not gonna go get another job, I'm gonna be my own boss," that takes about 6 months.
And you able to recognize that obviously very quickly and be transparent with them. Hey, you're probably not ready for now.
Correct.
That's great. That's great. Well, thank you, Scott. Appreciate your time.